With our USB devices, again, we mentioned that for our USB standard 1.1, 2.0, and 3.0, we're going to really have a maximum of 5 feet, or 5 meters rather. Now with that 5 meters, that may not always suffice for us. We may need something a bit longer. So what we can do is we can connect our USB devices to things such as USB hubs. They can look vastly different. They can just be a small block with one cable going into your computer and then 3 USB ports on the front. Or there can be much more creative USB type hubs. There's been ones that I've seen that look like a small pig, and you plug it in, and then you can plug in different USB plugs that look like piglets into the pig. Or you can get some that maybe look like a Ninja throwing star, and then you can use that as a hub to plug into the different sides. There's lots of different types, and they can get kind of pretty creative. And these USB hubs help to extend the range of your 5 meters. Now, the USB hubs may be either self-powered, or they may be self-powered or bus-powered. Bus-powered hubs are going to receive their power from the USB connection that they already have into the computer, or the USB power that they have on their system bus coming from your computer. They don't have a battery inside of them. They aren't plugged in. They're just self-powered, and this can limit the amount of USBs that you can plug into them, or if you can plug in a hub to a hub to a hub. If you're doing that with a bus-powered hub, it's basically trying to draw all that power through their USB ports, then you may not be able to plug everything into the hubs that you need to, especially if it's, say, a desk-powered fan that plugs into USB. You may not have enough sufficient power to run that. However, there is an alternative. These are called self-powered hubs. In addition to having their USB plug coming out of them that goes into your computer, they have a secondary plug to receive just power that plugs into your wall or your electrical outlet. So they have their second plug, and this one is for power. Now, these USB hubs, of course, are going to be able to provide more power to your particular USBs because they're getting that additional power, and they're not just trying to pull it all through your single USB port. Theoretically, we can have one USB port, and we can continually daisy chain these hubs on and on and on for several different devices. Now, we do actually have a specific number of devices that we can have daisy chained plugged into one single port on our computer, and that number is 127. That 127, again, is going to be the total amount of devices that we can have plugged, however, through our combination of daisy chaining and all these other setups that we may have that plug into a single port. For a typical home user, you probably won't ever encounter an issue where you're having problems with only having 127 devices that can plug into one port. That's quite a few devices. It's quite a few different USB devices. But there may be situations where it's good to know this number, especially if you're maybe in a large enterprise environment and for some reason you do have these daisy chained all over the place. They can be useful. Let's say we've hit our max on one port, or we need additional ports in our home environment because we don't want to buy tons and tons of these hubs to daisy chain them together. We just want more ports in our computer. We can buy expansion cards to place in our computer for USB ports. Now, these expansion cards are going to look similar to our standard expansion cards. This one isn't actually a USB expansion card, but it is a type of expansion card, and it's similar to what a USB expansion card would look like. We'll place it into a port in our computer. Typically, it'll be more than likely one of our PCI ports inside of our computer, and this will allow us to have more ports. Now, this can come in handy, especially when, say, we're plugged into a computer and we need some USB super speed 3.0 super speed ports. Our 2.0 ports, our 1.1 ports, they aren't cutting it. We're transferring a lot of data, and we want that data to transfer very fast, so we don't have to wait hours and hours for that data to transfer, cutting down our time significantly. So we can go ahead and just turn off our computer first, put on our electrostatic wristbands or mats, whichever, and then go ahead and just install our additional card. so that we'll have those additional ports. Many of our additional cards will actually come with drivers that we need to install as well, so that our computer will recognize that we have those additional USB ports there. You always want to make sure that you read the documentation that comes with your expansion cards so that you properly install your ports. Sometimes you'll need to install your drivers before you put the expansion card in. Sometimes it's the other way around. It really just depends on the exact expansion card and the documentation that you have. So remember, we have our USB 1.1, 2.0, and 3.0. We have our different speeds. We have our 12 megabytes per second, our 12 megabits per second, 480 megabits per second, as well as our 5 gigabits per second for our 3.0. And with that, we have a good idea about USB and what we can do with them.